So Jamaica is taking the relays seriously in 2025, and I love to see it. So World Relays, it's going to be going down on May 10th to 11th, all the way out in Guangzhou, China. And over the past couple days, we've been seeing various countries around the world announcing their lineups for their 4x1s, 4x4s, mixed 4x4 and mixed 4x1. And more recently, we saw the United States. Check out my man, Coach Rob. He did a video on the USA team and, shares a lot of my thoughts. So definitely check that video out. But today I'm talking about the Jamaican team that is going to be headed to the World Relays again on May 10th to 11th. And the lineups here, it tells me that Jamaica is not only trying to take this relay seriously, specifically on the 4x1 side, which I'll talk about, but they want to make sure they're getting back on the podium at the World Championships later on this year on both the men's and the women's side. So let's dive right into the relays. On the women's side, we have everyone from Nyesha Berger, Tia Clayton, Tina Clayton, Serena Cole, Shericka Jackson, Natasha Morrison, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, let's go, Alana Reed, and Crystal Soley. We're talking about an all-star lineup here. I'm going to compare this to what they had last year, both at World Relays and at the Olympic Games. But on the men's side, here we have Akeem Blake, Johan Blake, Julian Fort, Rashid Foster, Brian Lavelle, right? Javari Thomas. You have Kishane Thompson, Rowan Watson. So between these two teams, at least the pools on the men's and the women's side, this tells me, again, Jamaica is not playing in 2025. Now, if that, translates to actual medals, that's to be determined. But this actually tells me that they're taking things seriously. So on the women's side, again, we have pretty much the heavy hitters, every heavy hitter that you can imagine right now in Jamaican sprinting outside of someone like Elaine Thompson-Herah. You have Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, who's just coming off running a windy 10.94 seconds, her first race since the heats of the 100-meter dash at the Paris Olympic Games. She's been dealing with injuries and setbacks the past couple years. So to see her running at World Relays, coming off that 100-meter performance that she just had, this tells me even more so that she's healthy and ready to compete in 2025. You also have Shericka Jackson. Now, this, of course, is Friday, so she's going to be competing tomorrow at the Diamond League out in China. But again, because she's competing so frequently, she's done 60-meter races, she's done the 300, she's going to do the 200. That indicates that she is healthy now going to World Relays as well. So you already have essentially the top two heavy hitters for Jamaica outside of Elaine Thompson-Herah. But along with that, you also have Tia Clayton, right? Made the Olympic final last year in the 100-meter dash. The only Jamaican to make that Olympic final. Ran 10.8 seconds multiple times throughout 2025. You have her sister, Tina Clayton, who arguably, as they were both coming up, was probably on paper the quote-unquote better of the twins in terms of her talent, her ability. Now, things are starting to shift where Tia is a little bit better, but Tina is getting back into that realm. So you have that competition there. Nyesha Berger, she made the 200-meter team to the Olympic Games last year for Jamaica. So clearly we know she's more than capable. Alana Reed, of course, is the world junior champion in the 100 from last year. She also, of course, has run sub 11 seconds a couple times. Most recently just moved to Arkansas to be trained under Boogie Johnson. She is, of course, in the mix. Crystal Soley was kind of a breakout star in a sense last year, at least to the world. A lot of Jamaican fans, shout out to y'all put me on to Crystal Soley. She, of course, is now on the team. So again, what this tells me is they're pulling out all the stops to make sure that they can qualify to the to the World Championships later on this season, but not only qualify, but run a very strong performance to prove that they can actually get on the podium. Well, take a look at what the Jamaican women and the team that they had last year at the World Relays. At the World Relays, all due respect to these athletes, but they didn't put the most high quality team that they could have. So here at the World Relays in Bahamas last year, here you had Joanne Williams, who's had a pretty good, 2025 season, but, of course, she's not one of the top 100-meter sprinters. You had Tia Clayton, right? So Tia Clayton really coming into her own in 2024, and we saw what she did after that. So she was definitely one of the key pillars here. Ramona Bruchel, not nearly the athlete that she was years back when she was in the NCAA. So, not the high quality athlete that we might have been looking for, as well as Alana Reed. Alana Reed, though she, again, has been on the rise and has been one of the more consistent athletes, in combination, this just was not the strong squad that Jamaica was looking for. Between Shericka Jackson, she wasn't here, right? We didn't see Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. We didn't see some of those other women who we might have expected for Jamaica to put on, something really strong. And what did that lead to? If you look at the team here, in the heats of the 4x1 at the World Relays, going all the way down, Jamaica was 18th. Out of all the teams at the World Relays, Jamaica was 18th. Closer to the bottom than they were to the top, which is crazy. So that meant that they had to run in the repechage rounds, which they had at the World Relays, and they eventually did qualify to the Olympic Games. But it just speaks to the fact that they didn't put their strongest team out there, and it led to them not being able to safely qualify to the Olympics, without, a second chance at it at the World Relays. Now, with this team that they have, going into the World Relays in China this year, this proves that, listen, we don't want to play games. We want to make sure that we're getting to the World Championships and we're putting down our strongest team, getting some practice, and, doing our best to make sure that we can be competitive in Tokyo. Also, after the World Relays, at the Olympic Games in Paris, we saw that Jamaica unfortunately didn't do as well as they might have expected. Here, again, not a high quality team. Now, there were some casualties where Shericka Jackson, pulled out of the Olympics. You also had Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. She had to pull out after the heats of the 100 meters. But that left them with a relatively small squad. You're talking about Alana Reid, Kemba Nelson, Sasha Lee Forbes, as well as Tia Clayton. So yes, some good names and decently quality names, but some of these women were not in the true form that we might have expected them to be in, right? Kemba Nelson, she was not, the Kemba Nelson of 2022 at that point. Sasha Lee Forbes, right? She's not the top sprinter that we've seen her be in the past. But you were missing those Shelly-Anns, you were missing those Sherickas, and you even had like some controversy where some of these women I think had to be, flown out, or, weren't going to be sure if they were on the relay with Kemba. It's just like, we don't need to do all that. Jamaica doesn't need to do all that. And that led to them, they made the final, but they finished 5th place. So these aren't the results that Jamaica wants to see. They want to make sure they're getting back onto the podium. They want to make sure they're getting back to the days of Tokyo 2021, when they're winning gold medals in the 4x1. Right? When they're, running some of the fastest times in history, relative to any other 4x1s. They want to get back to those days. So this is a really, really good sign, considering the women who are in this relay pool. Now, it's TBD on how they're actually going to, pick who's running on the open 4x1 versus the mixed 4x1, right? That's still a little TBD. But what I would love to see in terms of a lineup for Jamaica here, I would love to see Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. I would love to see Tia Clayton. I would love to see Shericka Jackson. And then I would potentially like to see Tina Clayton. Now, things can be mixed up as well. Not to disparage any of the other athletes, but I do think that you're getting a mix here between Tia and Tina, who are the young kind of rising stars, but then you get the experienced and, extremely fast, women in Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and Shericka Jackson. Now, someone like Natasha Morrison, who's, been on the relay in the past, she also definitely could be in that mix there. Naisha Berger, Crystal Soley, they're kind of as well as Alana Reid, they're the young and rising stars as well. So all these women definitely should be in the mix, but I don't know, just off what I'm thinking now, I think Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, Shericka Jackson, Tia Clayton, those would be the top 3 I'd pick, and then I'd probably throw in Tina Clayton just to, kind of get that synergy going. Not exactly sure the order, you all can figure that out, but yeah, I think that'd be really good to see for the women. But let's talk about those men, because I'm going to be honest, the men is a whole different situation. Now, on the men's side, also pretty much as high quality of a field that you're going to get in terms of the pool, outside of probably one name, but Akeem Blake, we know what his pedigree is. Johan Blake, yes, he's not the Johan Blake of before, but we've seen him run, he ran some decent 100 meters, a little bit windy earlier this season. Julian Fort, we've seen him pop off with a couple fast times. Again, he's probably, on the more experienced, kind of older side, but still in the mix there. Rashid Foster, shout out to him, right? He's put down some quality performances across the board. Brian Lavelle, now he has been one of the young and rising stars for Jamaica over the past couple years. Specifically last year, we saw what he did, right? Javari Thomas, and Kishane Thompson, him right here. Come on, Kishane Thompson. And then Rowan Watson, we saw him, at the 2023 World Championships in Budapest. So this team here, essentially the only person missing is Oblique Seville. That's the only name who's missing here to say that, okay, we have all of our top stars for Jamaica going to the World Relays to be able to get that practice, to get that experience. But I think that this is at least a great, pool that Jamaica is going to be sending to China. Now, similar to the women, let's take a look at what the men did last year, first at the World Relays, then at the Olympic Games. So at the World Relays, not as strong of a team. I mean, unfortunately, just not as strong as a team. Talking about Brian Lavelle, Kadrian Goldson, you have Ryan Ford and Sandri Davidson, right? So it just wasn't that strong team. We didn't see Oblique Seville. We didn't see Akeem Blake. We didn't see Kishane Thompson. We didn't see any of those guys who are the 3 guys who made it to the Olympic Games last year in the 100. We didn't see any of them competing here. Even the women, yes, they didn't have Shelly-Ann and Shericka last year, but at least they had Tia Clayton, who did go on to compete in the 100-meter dash. Here, it was only Brian Lavelle. Brian Lavelle competed in the 200 meters at the Olympic Games. But aside from the other guys, Raheem Ford, though, he went to the Worlds in Budapest 2023, but it wasn't that strong team that they wanted. And yes, they ran 38.5, not as strong as a time. what happens when they get to the finals? This is at World Relays 2024. All the way down, they finished in 7th place in that 4x1 final, only running 38.88 seconds. So Jamaica, clearly they did not bring their best team to the World Relays last year, but now I think they're bringing, if not their best, obviously only Oblique Seville is the one missing. But then what happened at the Olympic Games as well? This was kind of, I'm gonna be honest, it was a little disappointing. I was gonna say tragic. I don't know if it was like tragic, but it was kind of disappointing because they couldn't get the baton around like they should have and, actually execute properly. Akeem Blake, he made the semifinals in 100 at the Paris Olympic Games. Jelani Walker, strong competitor, but not that really, really competitive guy. Jelani Gordon, though he did run at World Relays, again, it's not like some of those top guys that you would be looking for. Then you did have Kishane Thompson, but this was the first major relay that Kishane Thompson was running. Maybe the first relay that Kishane Thompson was running since, I don't even know when, since before we truly knew who Kishane Thompson was. So this just did not pan out as you might have expected. And again, they didn't even qualify into the final. Forget getting to the final and not getting on the podium. They simply did not qualify into the final. And Jamaican men do not want that to happen. They are, of course, the world record holders. They are, of course, during the Bolt era, they won an infinite amount of gold medals on that 4x1. They want to get back to that point, or at least get back to a point where they're competitive with Canada, with the United States, with South Africa, with Great Britain, with all those other countries who are really putting their foot down and saying, hey, we may not be some of the fastest, outside of the United States when talking about 100 meters on paper. We may not be some of the fastest. Canada, they're not the fastest, individual guys. Great Britain or Japan or South Africa, individually, they may not be the fastest, but they're able to execute when it counts the most in the finals of the 4x1. USA is a whole different story. Again, check out my man Coach Rob with that video that he did, but Jamaica wants to get back to a point where they're getting on the podium. Since Usain Bolt retired, 2017 was the first time that Jamaica did not medal in the 4x1 during the entire Usain Bolt era. Yes, 2008, of course, that 4x1 was retroactively removed because Nesta Carter was doping, so they removed that gold medal. But 2017, when Bolt got injured on that anchor, first time they didn't medal in the 4x1. They went to 2021 at the Olympic Games, no medal. They didn't even make the final, I don't think. 2022, they didn't medal, right? They made the final, I think, but they didn't medal. 2023, they finally got on the podium, getting a bronze medal. That was a really strong team. But 2024, they once again were unable to make the final or even medal. So Jamaica doesn't want this trend of inconsistencies to continue. They want to get back to a time where it's like, yo, Jamaica is on the podium. And guess what? This pool, this gives me some hope that Jamaica is not only going to be able to get back to, being competitive, getting on that podium, but at least will bring back some of that synergy, making sure that they get a chance to practice, making sure that they get a chance to execute and improve upon and fine tune all those handoffs and the, things they need to do to get to the World Championships and potentially get on that podium. That's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at this men's pool. And in general, that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at both the men's and the women's pools for Jamaica that are going to the World Relay. So again, women, love to see the full, this is pretty much the full roster of women that you could, you can ask for when it comes to the 4x1. Of course, there's a few names missing. Elaine Thompson-Herah, still TBD on what type of form she is. Kemba Nelson, is always in the conversation. There's a couple other women as well, but I like the women who are in here. And then the men, honestly, the only other person who's missing is Oblique Seville. Yes, you could talk about someone like Raheem Ford, who may be in here, but Oblique Seville is the only guy, in my opinion, that's like, okay, he's the only omission, but Jamaica at least is getting it right. Get those handoffs right, get that practice in, prepare, qualify for the World Championships, and prepare to potentially get on that podium. It's going to be a dogfight. Forget the United States, right? They're the defending gold medalists in the 4x1, and it's obviously a toss-up in terms of if they'll actually execute or not, but forget them for a second. Canada is not playing. South Africa is not playing. Great Britain is not playing. Japan is not playing. Mess around with China, they may not be playing. Like, all these countries are really coming for some great performances in the 4x1. So Jamaica just has to step up a little bit, and this at least is a good first step towards some potential success. So that was just my kind of initial reactions in terms of the 4x1 pools for Jamaica going to the World Relays, at least indicating that they're taking this seriously and they really want to make sure they're getting their stuff back on track. So let me know what you think about Jamaica and their 4x1 pools. Again, we don't know exactly who's going to run what order or who's going to run, the mixed relay, the men's and women's 4x1. We don't know any of those details yet, but we'll see May 10th to 11th. Definitely going to be keeping an eye out for it. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.